Hello, welcome back to Frame Fitness. I'm Helen, and today's workout is a 30-minute full body weight workout, and we'll get started standing. Back up to the back of your mat so you have a lot of space in front of you. Find some softness in your knees, and let's just take a little bouncing, rocking to get a little grounded, to feel your feet connected to the floor. And then you can start to bring that back to stillness and reach those arms up to the sky, just opening up at the shoulders. One more time with that circle. And then we'll reverse that circle the other way. We're gonna be doing a fair bit of all fours / planking work today. So we're just gonna make sure those shoulders feel great. Tucking your chin to your chest, rolling it down. Enjoy this articulation of your spine. Let's fold forward, bending your knees as much as you need to until you can reach your hands to the ground. From here, reach straight through that left leg and peel your left arm off the floor. Let's look up at it, circling out at the wrist, going both directions, and then folding it down to the ground. Straighten out through that right leg, and give yourself some circles through that right hand. Anytime you feel tender through those wrists, reversing the circle, you can always come back to these little sort of flamenco circles at the wrist to help relieve some of that tension. From here, we walk it on out, finding a plank position right away. Let's clean up our plank form before we get any further along in class. Squeezing into your glutes, the slightest ever tuck of your pelvis, pushing away from the ground and hugging your abs away from the waistband of your pants. Let's take a big breath in through the nostrils and pike your hips up to the sky, finding a down dog. Reach up to your tippy toes, slight bend in your knees so you can find that neutrality in your spine. And then as you feel good about maintaining that neutral, you can dig down through your heels and maybe play with starting to straighten those legs a little bit, hugging your rib cage towards your thighs. And we'll rise right back up through our tippy toes, undulate through the spine, really exaggerate that articulation as you return to your plank. We're gonna do a few of those. And this will just be on your own individual timing, rising up on the inhale, drawing your shoulder blades away from your ears, rising up on the exhale, and curling that tailbone under. And I want you to really think here of your glutes as part of your core when you're working in a plank, because it's gonna help protect your back. And also trying to push away from the ground. So I'm not sinking in my shoulders here. I'm really actively lifting away from the floor. And this will be our last one. Squeezing those glutes into the plank. Can you open up at your collarbones, a little proud posture in that plank position before finding your last down dog and settling your knees to the ground. Walk those hands right underneath yourself and get set up for a quadruped all fours position. Now, more shoulder warming up. You're gonna sink at your chest, squeeze your shoulder blades together. I want you to feel that activation between your shoulder blades. Push away and give me that twist, just like how we started class with that stretch. Come back to the center, little squeeze between the shoulder blades, a lift, and one more twist the other way. Let's take that a few more times, just alternating. And noticing that maybe one side feels a little more natural or one side feels a little bit more restricted, totally normal for a human being, but maybe giving a little lingering extra moment to the side that feels a little more challenging so we can work on creating some more balance in the body and getting rid of that tension. This will be our last one. And you're gonna find your all fours position. We're gonna head right into some bird dog balance challenge here. So I'm lifted up around my armpits without collapsing to the floor, reaching right arm, left leg. Again, let's pause here, talk about form before we move on. Squeeze through your left glute. I want you to feel this spot where the butt becomes the hamstring, really engaged in that press up. And I'm trying to get some height on that leg without arching my back. And then we'll change it out, opposite arm and leg. And I want these first few to be maybe a little slower than you'd like them to be, so you have time to get organized, so you have time to figure out what your core needs to do to keep you from falling over like one of those car wash inflatable thingies. And always remembering the stability around the shoulders. Now, if that wasn't enough for you to think about, I would also like you to be aware of not crunching up into your neck. So nice long neck the entire time. And on this next one, we're gonna add another layer in, if you like. So right arm, left leg. You're gonna take that into a curl, round your spine like an angry cat, bring your elbow and knee to center, and reach it all the way out. Pause, keep growing taller off that left arm, And start to sweep arm and leg away from center. Back into that crunch. Right arm, left leg. We're gonna do a bunch on this side, and then we'll find balance on the left side. Now, your leg does not have to be super high to the side, because I'm more concerned with you keeping both of your hips square to the floor. So rather than getting your leg way up there, I want this hip to stay facing the ground, even if it means we need to lower that leg a little bit. Into that crunch, pushing away from the floor, reaching it all the way out again, and side sweep, lifting, lifting. And last time here, try to keep your weight forward over that left wrist rather than sinking back. Take it back to your balance before sending it down. Give yourself a little shoulder shrug circle. Whew, we reset, we do it again. Left arm, right leg. Give yourself a crunch. Can you initiate this curling under with the base of your spine? Rounding under, reaching it all the way out. Add your side sweep. What a lot of people like to do here is think about leading with sort of this nod of the head. We're so used to that with our screens, letting our chin fall forward. So it feels maybe a little foreign, a little unnatural to think about that tuck, that initiation happening from the very base of the spine. But I also find that it helps us feel a bit more connected to the pelvic floor and to those lower abdominals. Exhale out the mouth on that rounding, keeping your weight forward, and inhaling to stretch in opposite directions. Let's do just one more on this side. Reaching, side sweep, and find your balance. Grow taller off that right armpit before setting it all the way down. Again, a little shoulder shrug circle to release. And we're gonna lay face down on the ground. So, nice smooth transition. Lay yourself face down on the ground. We're gonna work into a little bit of posture work. You wanna make sure that you don't have any accoutrement in your way that you're gonna bump into. And legs are hip width apart. Pressing your pubic bone down into the ground and drawing those shoulder blades away from your ears. Exhale, lift up at the head and chest and arms. Pause here for a second. Squeeze between those shoulder blades, getting a little bit more expansion, a little bit more opening at that chest. Inhale, take it down. And exhale, lifting it up. Now, this is one of those moves that I always like to take the time to remind you that it's not about doing a million really, really fast reps. It's really about slowing it down, feeling the movement in your body, trying to feel that activation of those posture muscles, squeezing shoulder blades together, and then inhale, controlling the descent. That way we're not jerking into our low back, causing any compression or pain there. And also remembering that this exercise is not about getting as high up as you can. It's really about building that strength through the posterior chain. Like I said, we do a lot of looking at our screens, hanging forward throughout the day. So giving yourself these few minutes to create some more balance that will help us feel better long term. Now we add on. You lift it up. Find that squeeze between the shoulder blades and start to reach your arms forward without shrugging your shoulders. So if that means you don't go all the way or you have to go open a little wider, totally fine. And then drag it back in. I'm gonna keep my chest floating, reaching the arms forward. And exhale, bringing it back. If you ever feel any tension in your low back, come down a little closer to the floor, or maybe just take a break altogether, take a deep breath, and reset. Keep pressing your hips through the floor. So I'm not quite tucked at my pelvis. I do want to be neutral, but I am pressing my hips through the ground because if I let my back arch, all of that tension goes into the low back. So it's a subtle change, but it makes all the difference so that we can really feel our backs getting stronger. Another thing to amplify the sensation here is visualize pulling a really heavy bar at the gym down. So we're creating some internal resistance, adding some tension through the arms without crunching up into our neck. We'll take that just 2 more times. Make sure you're breathing. Squeezing on that exhale. Inhale, elongating and reaching. 1 more time. We hold. Now, without bouncing your upper body, find a squeeze pulse and a soften. A squeeze pulse and a soften. I am not letting my chest move here, and I'm also not bouncing, so I don't want it to get too momentum-y. I want to think about being in charge of that movement the whole time, giving myself time to consciously squeeze those posture muscles, wake them up, and then inhale, set it back down. Exhale, finding that squeeze, and inhale, releasing it down. We're here for 4. Keep pressing your hips through the ground. 3, 2, and 1. Melt everything down. Just give your hips a little shake, a little figure 8 rock from side to side, and let your hips get a nice little release. We're gonna stay laying down, nice easy transition. Just stack your hands on top of one another to make a nice pillow. Forehead rests on top of the hands, and we're gonna go ahead and squeeze through those glutes, float your legs up just to a float above the mat, and then inhale, set it down. Just like that spinal extension we just finished, I'm not looking for the biggest leg lift I can possibly hike my legs up. A, most of us don't have a ton of hip extension, and B, we're trying to find that strength through the glutes and the hamstrings, not necessarily trying to contort our body. All right, something that keeps coming up for people here when I teach this in person is I see a lot of this. We think that by tensing up in our shoulders, we're gonna be able to get more out of our legs. So just give yourself a little body scan and see if you can bring some softness and release through the neck and shoulders. Even trying to soften your gaze a little bit. Stop furrowing your brow or glaring at me. Exhaling as you lift and inhaling as you lower. Now, I like to do this with my legs hip width apart, so it feels better on my back. But if you've no SI joint, no low back issues, you could even play around with squeezing your legs all the way together and see if that works for you to get a little more inner thigh connection. And we'll take that just 2. Just 1. Find that float. Keep the legs lifted. Now, inhale. Open the legs as wide as the mat and squeeze it back either to that hip width or to that all the way closed together that we chatted about. It stays off the ground, and I open and close. Inhale, think release, relax your pelvic floor. Exhale, squeeze your inner thighs and lift up through your pelvic floor. So I really like integrating inner thigh adductor work with pelvic floor connection, because it helps it feel a little more obvious, and let's face it, it's a bit esoteric thinking about engaging your pelvic floor. Sometimes it can be a bit hard to know if you're doing it right. So think about drawing a tissue up inside of you and then releasing it as you release the legs for 3. And 2, still soft through those shoulders. And 1, from here, I'm just gonna turn my legs out, heels together, or sort of together, toes apart. I'm gonna take little pulses in. Little pulses in, still not bouncy. It is quick, but it is controlled. So I can really feel not just those inner thighs, but my rotators as well here for 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Melt those legs down. Give yourself a little shake out of your hips one more time. Now I would like to tie those things together, coming back to our cactus arms, coming back to your face down position. The whole body lifts. Exhale, head, chest, arms, legs. Pause for a moment. Squeeze through your tush. Squeeze between those shoulder blades. Feel wide open at those collarbones, super straight at your knees. And inhale, set it right back down. And repeat. Exhaling to lift. And I'm looking just in front of my mat rather than jutting into my neck. Exhale, lifting it up. Shoulder blades gliding down the spine. And inhale, setting it down. Friendly reminder, I don't care how high you're getting. It's not about impressing me with a big back bend. It's about feeling that strength through the back body. So that could be an inch off the ground. It could be higher than me, whatever it means for your own unique body. Exhaling on that squeeze lift and inhaling to lower it. This is our last one. We stay lifted. Here's where the brain gets a little tricky. Reach your arms forward, spread the legs. All right, and now bend the elbows, squeeze those thighs together. Inhale, reach it open, sort of like a weird slow motion jumping jack. Inhale forward. Exhale, squeeze it back in. Don't forget to create that resistance with the upper body. Squeeze it back in. See how I got a little shaky on that last one? The difference is between sort of gliding it in and then being really intentional about how I'm moving through space. So we don't need any equipment if we're thinking about our quality of movement. For 4, oh my goodness. 3, imagine there's an ice cube underneath your belly button. Last one, here's where we pulse it. From here, find your turnout position, heels together, toes apart, little pulses of the shoulder blades to the spine, the inner thighs towards center. You'll notice I'm not making my legs completely touch to protect my low back, but if that feels good, you can experiment with that, kissing your heels together for 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1, setting it all the way down. Let's give our hips just a little rock side to side. Take your hands underneath your chest. Push yourself back. Let's find a child's pose for a moment just to release through that low back. And I want to talk about breath through the back ribs for a moment. So pushing your hands through the ground, pulling your ribs away from your hands so we feel that stretch through the lats. But also as you inhale, try to get some back body expansion by puffing up the backs of your lungs, expanding your rib cage wide, and then just melt to the ground on that inhale. One more time like that. Releasing that tension with our breath. Inhale, wider at the ribs, and exhale, softening to the ground. Let's bring it forward. Find your hands and knees once again. Let's work into a little more upper body, or a little bit more, I should say, targeted arms, since we just did a lot of posture. That was upper body. From here, shoulders are on top of your hands, hips are right on top of your knees, and you're gonna go down into a kneeling push-up. Now, watch how my butt stays on top of my knees here, because if I sit it back, I'm pretty much going into that child's pose again, and that feels nice, but we're not putting a lot of load in our triceps. So I wanna keep my nose right in line with my fingernails so that I keep that pressure where we're trying to get stronger. Inhaling on the down, and exhaling out the mouth to help you lift up. I find that exhale really helps you get off the ground. Also, you have the option of taking this just halfway, 3/4 of the way, whatever feels like a challenge on your body. As long as your form is good, I do not mind if you shorten that range of motion. Another note to think about here is pointing your elbows back towards your toes. So I don't want to let it go out to the side. Nothing wrong with an internal rotation, but for today, we're going in parallel. Inhale down, and exhale, push it back up. Can you drive down through your knuckles and through your fingertips? Inhaling on the down, exhaling on that lift for 2. For 1. Lifting it all the way up. From here, we're just gonna add a little hop to the end of that. It sounds scarier than it is. You're gonna lower down, and then you're gonna lift it up, launch yourself up a little off the ground. Catch yourself with a bend in the arms, lift it up. So if that feels like it's just not gonna happen today, you can skip that part and just work through those really strong tricep push-ups that we've been working on. But it's a fun one to play with. Also remembering that it's just Pilates, right? We don't need to be perfect. We want to keep our form good and safe, but playing is fun too. Enjoying that experimentation. That's why this is the most fun type of workout, because it's not the same thing over and over. It's a bit more playful than that. That's what keeps me coming back. Let's go 3, 2, hard to talk and do these at the same time. And one last time, I want you to catch yourself in that halfway bend. Pause, don't drop yet. Shift your weight a little bit more forward, still bend through the elbows, pushing through your knuckles, and take that into a teeny tiny pulse. Teeny tiny pulse. Can you lift your abs and your ribs away from the ground? Really spread those shoulder blades wide. We're here for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, push it all the way up straight, really spread those shoulder blades wide, and sit it back into your child's pose. Let's relax for a moment, really walking your hands out as far in front of you as you possibly can, pulling your ribs and your hips away from your hands. You can give yourself a little side bend over to the right, pushing your left hand through the ground and trying to pull your ribs away from that left hand. So we feel this nice release through that side body. And then stay heavy, but take it over to that second side. All right, pushing your right hand down through the ground, pulling your ribs away from your hands. Feeling that release, trying to puff up the right ribs. And then inhale, bringing it back to the center and come on up. Let's take a seat for a second. I want to just clench and unclench those fists a few times. Here comes the big plank series I was promising you. So just to get those forearms and wrists happy, and then you can give it a little shake out. Remember, you can do that in between any of these reps, any of these sets if that feels good for you. And let's get into it. So hands and knees. You're going to walk it out. Find your plank position. Plank position can be here on the knees as well, as long as it's different from this guy. I want hips in front of the knees. I want glutes engaged. And we're just going to hold this one for a little bit. Squeezing into your glutes. Can we think about pulling the hands in towards your toes? See how I got immediately more shaky when I tried to bring in that isometric connection to the abs? So it's almost as if I'm shortening the mat. That's what that energy is. I'm pulling the hands towards the toes, trying to drag it in, pulling my ribs to my hips, pulling my hips to my ribs. Soft through those elbows so that my arms are straight but not locked out. And yes, pushing up and away from the ground. Hugging in through the core. Let's take that for another 5 inhales and exhales. Inhaling through the nose. Exhaling out through the throat. And again. Be careful not to let your head sink down, pressing the back of your head up to the sky so your neck stays in line with your spine. One more deep breath. And let's bring our butts to the sky, big pike up, and pedal through your feet a moment. Just a moment to give your shoulders a little breather, because we're going to add on some pedals of the legs in this next plank. Rise back up to your tippy toes, undulate through your spine. Find your strong plank position. Now, without moving your hips, bend your right knee slightly and squeeze it back to plank. Bend your left knee slightly, squeeze it back to plank. Other option here from the floor, sort of just the inverse of that, straightening out through one leg at a time. So we still feel that connection to the glute and the hamstring, circling back to the beginning of our class. But it's slightly more supportive if that's what you need today. And I always like to stress, one option is not better than the other. There's just what's right for you in this moment. So if you're looking for a little extra spice, you're on those toes. If you're focusing today instead on that stability, or maybe your goal today was to really concentrate on your breathing, we can only do so many things at once, right? So choose an option that allows you to get the most out of that movement. And I know it's pretty brutal here, but try to slow it down. Really, inhale to bend the knee. See me shaking here. Exhale to straighten it for 2. And 1. Let's go butts to the sky. Down dog for a moment. Enjoy that relief for your shoulders. Again, you can pedal the feet out here. You could just sink into your down dog, whatever feels good. But try to make sure you're not crunching those shoulders up to your ears and you're not rounding at your low back. Really stick out your tail. Okay, now is my favorite version. Rise forward, come to your plank. Now it's just both legs at the same time. Inhale, bend at the knees, and exhale, straighten it back out. If you're here from the knees, you can either continue with your one leg, or you can play with setting it up in plank and resting those knees down. But if you're coming from the top, my knees aren't really touching the floor because it would involve me dropping my hips to do that. So they're slightly different, but we're accomplishing the same thing with both. Spinning your elbows and your triceps to the back, spinning your biceps forward, really externally rotated in those arms, thinking about an open chest. Remember that proud posture we talked about at the beginning of class? Holy shakes for 3. 2, and 1. Set those knees down. Oh my goodness. Let's walk it back to that quadruped position. We're going to peel left arm off the ground. We're going to just release a bit through those shoulders. Can you reach your left arm up to the ceiling as much as possible while driving down through that right hand? And then in this twisted open position, you're going to give me a nice, luxurious twist open or circle open for this shoulder car. And we reverse that, taking it forward and back. Try to keep lifting and pushing away from the ground. And one final time. Setting it down. Let's twist open on that right side. And right arm up and around. Up and around. Reverse that circle the other way. And let's take that circle one last time. From here, go back to those shoulder shrug circles we worked on the beginning of class. And we're going to revisit that very first exercise, that bird dog that we worked on. Shoulders on top of the hands, hips on top of the knees. Find your balance. Really squeeze through your glute. Lift that leg up just a little bit higher. Can you think about reaching your arm and leg in opposite directions? And how does this feel different from the very first version that we worked on today? Our arms are a little shakier, shoulders are a little more tired, but we're way more connected to this supported feeling in the abdominals. Taking it down. And left arm, right leg. Trying not to shrug the shoulder. Can you get a little more height on that leg lift? Lifting the abdominals up and away from the floor, setting it down. Now, I have bad news. We have just a little bit more planking to do, but it's sort of a choose-your-own-adventure version. So you're going to find shoulders on the hands and a plank position. Now, I like to go a little wider with my legs in this particular plank because we're doing a little bit of a balance check. Just like our bird dog, you're going to reach your right arm forward without twisting your hips and take it down. Option to be on your knees to play with this. Or you could even just take it to a reach. And just to emotionally prepare you for what's to come, we are going to do this with the legs as well. And I want you really focusing on keeping these hips as square to the floor as possible, just like our bird dog. Let's take that one more time on either side. Now hold your plank, take a mini break on those knees if you need it. I'm gonna walk my legs back together, and I'm gonna take an alternating leg lift. Squeezing through the glute of the leg that's lifting. I love a plank heavy class because it's super full-bodied. It gets you really warm. You really feel like you got in there and did something. This is our last time, right and left. Take a little mini break, find that child's pose. Our final plank is our bird dog in a plank. So I'm always going to give you that option to stay on your knees if that's what your body needs today. But I promise this one is scarier than it looks, so give it a try if you feel up for it. Find that plank position. Try to lift your chest taller away from the ground, so no sinking into those shoulders. And I find that reaching the arm and the leg at the same time really helps you find that balance. Ta-da! Wow, that's the best I've ever done that. Thank God the camera was on. Left arm, right leg. Shaky shake. Take it back down. Keep going here. You have the option to choose just the arm, just the leg. If doing both at the same time is just not happening today, I've been there. But if you are going for it, let's try that just one more time on either side. Woo. Last time, left arm, right leg. Butt to the sky. Okay, that's over and done with. Thank goodness. Pedaling through those feet. And then I like to just bring my feet a little bit wider. You're going to very slowly, knees as bent as you need them, walk your hands into your toes. Shake your head yes. Feel that neck release. Shake your head no. Once again, in this forward fold, try to feel the breath into your back ribs, just like we did in child's pose, widening and expanding at these back ribs. And then slowly from the base of your spine, once again, starting to stack up, hollowing out through the core. As you begin to bring your ribs on your hips, you can start to lengthen your legs as that feels good. Shoulders on your ribs. Whew, head on your shoulders. Walk those feet together. Let's go a little shoulder shrug at the top. Reverse it the other way. Whew. And then there you have it. I hope you're feeling great. I hope you're feeling strong. That was a lot of shoulders. That was a lot of planking. So make sure you take care of yourself, and I can't wait to see you back here again soon. Have a great day.